Please welcome Corporate Vice President, Microsoft, Kirk Gregerson.
Good afternoon, everyone. If that video won't wake you up, nothing will wake you up. I'm Kirk Gregerson. I lead the Viva product team. Thank you for coming to the Viva and Employee Experience session today. It's fun to be back in person at the Microsoft 365 conference. I've gotten to see a bunch of old friends. It brings back fond memories of the last time I was here, which was actually during what was called the SharePoint conference, which I'm sure some of you attended back in the day too. Actually, my first experience with SharePoint was when I helped ship SharePoint team services in the front page retail box back in front page 2002, I believe it was. I still remember how excited I was to run down to CompUSA and get my freshly shrink-wrapped box of front page and server extensions. I'm sure maybe a few of you remember that, but it was certainly fun times. It's wild to think how much things have changed since then. For those of us who've been in the industry for a while, we've gone through collectively a lot of major technology transformations. And as you can see from all of the AI cowbell at this event and in the industry in general, we really think that this Copilot wave or generative AI wave is going to be one of the biggest technology transformations we've ever gone through, probably since the PC, if not bigger. In all of these cases, we've seen really two commonalities across them. The first is that we've generally seen rapid advances in how end users can interact with the technology, coupled with rapid advances in compute and platform. And AI is no exception. In this case, what I'm sure all of you are seeing as well is that the ability to use natural user inputs, natural language, voice, video, is giving all of us, just as end users, the ability, much quicker access to the technology than I've certainly ever seen in a lot of these previous waves. The thing, though, that is also a commonality around a lot of these waves is a more human element at some level. And this is around, we think with AI also going to be a big one, which is the amount of cultural change and user enablement that's going to be required. Earlier, Jeff shared a bunch of the benefits that are associated, that we've seen so far from our EAP customers with the early rollout of Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. And over the next 45 minutes, we'll show you a bunch of what our customers are starting to see as we bring Copilot into Viva and the Viva applications, including one super cool story from Phillips 66, who's here in person with us, and we feel very fortunate to have Cassidy Potts with us today. With all of these benefits, even at this early stage, it's no wonder that the vast majority of business leaders are already saying that AI is going to be critical to the success of our companies collectively. And beyond that, I think the most interesting thing for me has been to see the range of use cases that we're being asked to apply AI to, ranging from the types of things that Jeff and others shared earlier today around productivity and collaboration, to use cases in employee experience, operations, and even well-being. Expectations are super high, certainly for us as a vendor, and I thank you for the feedback that you've already been giving us, and for the how accountable you're holding us on delivering on our end. But expectations are also high for you all as IT leaders too, we know. And so, at the same time, we all know that change is hard, people are key, and this is where employee experience and hopefully Viva come into play to help with this transition as we're going. As Jeff shared earlier today, one of the things that we've done to hopefully help with the Copilot transition that a number of you are undertaking even now is to update Microsoft 365 to provide a number of Viva capabilities out of the box. So things ranging from the Copilot Impact Dashboard to a Learning Academy to a number of community and communications templates that, again, are out of the box just as part of the Copilot license. But beyond this, Viva delivers on 3 areas that research and experience have found are key to any enhancements in employee engagement, high-performing organizations generally. It all starts with measurement, and this is understanding both how we're working through signals from the Microsoft Graph via Viva Insights and from your own systems of record and applications internally. Coupling that then with measurements on how we feel through survey data from applications like Glint and Pulse, and sentiment data from community product like Engage. Once we know where we have opportunity to increase engagement or performance, Viva goals can help align teams and organizations around a shared vision and a shared set of objectives. And then Engage, Amplify, Viva Connections can help communicate new initiatives, new directions to all of us collectively, connecting leaders with employees, but more important than that, as we've seen at, even at this conference, creating communities among employees so people can share knowledge and expertise. And then finally, once we collectively know where we're going, tools like Viva Learning, Answers, and the new skills inferencing service that we're rolling out in private preview right now help with the skilling needed to realize those goals. And one of the neat things about this space, I find, is that you can then go back to measure against the baseline and see where we're actually having impact and where we aren't. I find it to be one of the really nice and unique things about employee experience in general. Before we jump into showing you the demos in each of these 3 areas, I do want to just take a moment to thank you all who've been on the Viva journey with us for the last 3 years since we launched. We're now up to more than 35 million monthly active users, thousands of global customers, several hundred ecosystem partners. And personally, we couldn't have done it without those of you who've given us feedback along the way, and particularly some of you all who are in co-innovation or co-creation partnerships with us, where you've really helped shape the product, for the benefits of the industry, hopefully as well. So thank you for that. Now let's dive into measurement and get into a couple demos. Before I do that, I mentioned earlier, people are key, and the data bears this out. 10 years of longitudinal research and experience in the Glint People Science team has shown that companies where employees are most actively engaged, where you have the highest employee engagement, are 2 times more successful financially than companies with the least engaged employees. And this spans from everything from KPIs like attrition and retention increases to your ability to roll out change more rapidly. One of the industry best practices that I mentioned earlier is this combination of taking indirect sources of data or signals, again, the types of things about how we're working, data you might get from the Microsoft Graph through Insights, and then marrying this with direct sources of feedback, such as what we get from Viva, Glint, and Pulse. I couldn't be more excited that Glint joined the Viva family over the last year. We GA'd Pulse. We think this rounds out the employee listening and measurement capabilities in Viva to be the most comprehensive set of signals you can get to gauge progress and baselines on where you are, inclusive of how we think about weaving Copilot adoption into that. And so with that, I will invite Nick DeFalco to stage, and he's going to show you a couple examples.
Hey, everybody. Hey. So I'm excited to show you how Viva is helping drive change management and employee engagement. In some of the other presentations, you may have seen how the Copilot dashboard can help you understand your organization's Copilot readiness, adoption, and impact. This dashboard breaks down usage and employee hours benefited across apps and use cases, as well as across the different groups at your company. It also allows you to integrate sentiment data from Glint or from Viva Pulse or other third-party systems so that you can understand how employees feel that Copilot is changing the way that work gets done. Since we released this dashboard in March, we've heard lots of feedback from IT admins and deployment pros that they want to be able to explore these metrics a bit more deeply and even create their own customized reporting. So this is exactly why we have the Viva Insights Analyst Workbench. Users who are assigned the Viva Insights Analyst Workbench have access, and they can create queries that output all of the Copilot metrics that you find in the out-of-the-box dashboards. You can generate trend insights covering up to 27 months of historical data and leverage any employee attribute that an admin has uploaded into the system for fine-grained population filtering, tuning, and even metric customization. You can also explore how work may be evolving by bringing in any of the 150 plus Viva Insights metrics that are available, or your own impact metrics. So an example, I saw an insight from Microsoft that our customer support agents with Copilot had a 12% reduction in case handling time. I can add case handling time as an impact metric and compare, how work is changing for employees with Copilot versus not Copilot and how that stacks up against that case handling time outcome metric. But Viva Insights does a whole lot more than just Copilot adoption and impact. It really is a tool that enables strategic impact across many areas and functions of the business. So let me show you a bit how. This here is our newly released Analyst Workbench homepage. So users with analyst access can use this initially to explore the scope of the data up here at the top of the page. And then scrolling down, we have a curated set of some of our most popular reporting templates. So a couple to highlight, we have our Ways of Working report, which allows you to explore employee behavioral norms. We have our Hybrid Workforce Experience report, which evaluates how work may be different for employees, whether they operate in an in-office versus a fully remote versus a hybrid working environment. And we have our Skills Landscape report for workforce planners. My colleague Michael is going to get into that a bit later, so I'll leave that for him. But just to really highlight this value more specifically, let's start with a couple common use cases. So first, let's assume that I'm a sales ops analyst. My task is to understand what makes the top salespeople so good at their jobs, and then figure out ways to bring that to the rest of my population at large. Now, this is a use case used by customers such as Lumen Technologies, or even internally at Microsoft for many, many years. Now, I may not be quite sure where to start, but in the age of Copilots, it's here to help. So I can click Copilot and just ask it a simple question. What differentiates top salespeople? Now, Copilot will translate that prompt by comparing its general world knowledge against its grounded, specific knowledge of Viva Insights, and it will return a suggestion for me to try the Success Strategies report. I can click through directly into that report and review the set of configurations and metrics that are available for me. And if I want, I can browse our metric library to see any of the 150 plus additional metrics that I might want to bring into this analysis. And I can even customize those metrics. So for example, I might have a hypothesis that the best salespeople, they just spend a lot of time in happy hours and fun events with their customers and their sales leads, right? I can bring in a metric to test that, and then Viva Insights will return that information to me on a de-identified and privacy-protected basis for me to aggregate into my analysis. But to make it easy this time, let me just ask Copilot what metrics it might suggest for me. When I do that, Copilot comes back with some suggestions to try some metrics about how these salespeople are teaming with others. I can click to quickly add those to my query, and then after I finish verifying, I can run and set up this report. Now, swiping over to the Finished Success Strategies report, what this report does is it runs machine learning algorithms on the back end so that it can identify which behaviors that I've added to that query are most unique to my top seller population. In this case, it's identifying internal network size and the diversity or the breadth of ties across the company as two of the metrics that are most distinguishing of these top sellers. Now, as a sales analyst, I might be a bit surprised because I would have thought that, how sellers engage with their customers and sales leads is really what drove that sales performance. But in this case, it's helping me focus my attention where it matters, which is really understanding and facilitating the right connections between sellers and their internal colleagues who can help unblock and advance their deals. Another popular use case that I want to highlight is network analysis and change management. So this is used by customers such as Finastra here locally in Orlando. Microsoft, we also use this too. Strategy analysts, typically, they use this type of reporting to identify synergies and fits for high-level strategic change initiatives. So things like mergers and acquisitions and divestitures and organizational restructurings. This report, it provides a before and after view of how different organizations are connected with each other, or conversely, if you have any organizations that are just stuck in a silo somewhere in the business, not connecting. In this example, network analysis on the left is showing me that my sales and my customer support teams used to be very disconnected from each other. So there's a very, very thin line of collaboration between those two organizations. But based on our recent sales analysis, we've been making a concerted effort to facilitate relationships and orchestrate networks between these organizations. And on the right-hand side, now you can see a much thicker band of collaboration between these two organizations. I've shown you how Viva Insights can be used for IT with the Copilot dashboard, for sales and operations, for strategy analysis. The last one I want to highlight is how HR is using it. We have this Glint and Behavioral Insights report that you see on the screen here. This report provides people analysts with a consolidated view into Glint's people science-based employee sentiment results, and it combines these with correlated behavioral insights from Viva Insights. Now, when you pair this deep qualitative outcome data from Glint against high-frequency, passively generated quantitative data from Viva Insights, you really have this like peanut butter and chocolate type of relationship for people analysts, because now they have the fidelity and granularity of data that they need for things like employee engagement modeling and understanding how sentiment changes over time. So speaking of Glint, I'm also excited to show you how Copilot is making employee feedback directly accessible to managers and leaders. So let's assume I'm a leader. I'm reviewing my annual employee engagement report, and I find that some of my favorite information comes from the verbatims that employees leave me. But with this many verbatims, it's difficult for me to wade through all of this information. Fortunately, Copilot and Viva Glint can help me summarize common themes. So I open up Copilot, and on the right-hand rail here, I see 3 suggested prompts. I'm going to choose the first prompt here to just provide a high-level summary of all of my organization's comments. In seconds, Copilot's providing me an overview that shows that employees generally feel happy, but they feel like they're lacking an understanding of strategic direction. Okay, this is a great start. I know I want to dig a lot deeper, and I might not be sure what to ask next. Fortunately, we have this prompt guide in the bottom right-hand of the screen here. I can click that and get suggested prompts. So for me, I want to find more about the topic of clarity. Now, what Copilot's doing is it's zooming in from the initial 7,000 comment set that we're starting with to the 210 comments that are specifically relevant to clarity, And it provides me with a quick summary showing that a lack of clarity is resulting in unclear priorities in the organization and wasted effort. Now this is interesting, and I know I want to drill in even further. We have a bunch of new employees that we recently hired in the marketing department, and I may be thinking to myself, if clarity is an issue for the company at large, then it's got to be a specific issue for those new employees. So I can ask Copilot specifically to help me identify how they're feeling about clarity. Now what Copilot's doing in the sidecar is it's intelligently selecting the appropriate Glint attributes to identify the marketing team, and then it's segmenting that subset of responses by another Glint attribute for tenure. It's looking for the employees that have a tenure of 1 year or less. Now these comments are surfacing themes that are normally super time consuming for me to synthesize on my own, and it's telling me that this group finds it difficult to find planning and strategy documents, and they want to hear more directly from leaders. In Copilot, it even suggests me a follow-up prompt here at the bottom in the right-hand sidecar. This is, we're looking at what do employees specifically recommend we do to improve clarity. Now this is really cool because what Glint does is as comments come in, it tags the ones that are prescriptive in nature, and then Copilot can automatically identify those verbatims and summarize those comments for me. So starting with over 7,000 survey responses, Copilot has filtered me down to the 22 most relevant comments that have actionable recommendations for improving clarity. It also verifies that this group surpasses the minimum group size that my tenant has set. And if it hasn't, it'll kick me out, tell me to ask a broader query. In this case, we passed the check, so it highlights the recommendations from those employees. These employees are telling me they want more manager and leadership accessibility, more one-on-ones, more access to strategy documents, like very specific things like that. And if I want even more context on the team's feedback, I can click through and see the comments directly. Now, Copilot has saved me a tremendous amount of time. It's focused my attention, it's targeted me, and it's giving me a manageable list to read. So before I go, I do want to highlight that these insights from Viva Glint, from Viva Insights, also from Engage, Goals, Connections, and more, they're all reasoned over and synthesized by Copilot, so you no longer need to remember where to go to find the particular insight. Just ask Copilot. It will surface the relevant insight for you, provide a summary, and give you the references and links that you need to explore more. Thanks. Hand it back to you, Kirk.
Thanks, Nick. So as I mentioned, we have hundreds of customers now using some combination of Glint, Pulse, and Insights to get a baseline measurement on where they are with things. And a subset of those who are starting to test and preview Copilot and Glint, which Nick was just showing. As I mentioned earlier, we're lucky to have one of those customers here today, Cassidy Potts from Phillips 66, who leads employee experience for Phillips. And so I'd like to invite Cassidy up on stage. Hey, Cassidy, good to see you. Awesome, great to have you here. Thanks again for coming.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Phillips 66, iconic brand, about 15,000 employees, and you co-lead employee experience for Phillips 66. Mm-hmm. You have an interesting background, though, for I think this audience at the M365 conference, sort of a mix of HR and a mix of IT. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role.
Yeah, so my background originally started in management information systems, and then made a quick jump over to leadership and organizational performance before I started in my role at Phillips 66. So it's really helped me do the employee experience role, being able to understand kind of how our systems works and how we can leverage that. In my specific role as an employee experience advisor, we do everything from measuring, diagnosing, problem solving, all the way to coaching people on employee experience and how they can build their teams. And our kind of cornerstone project is our engagement survey each year. So that's where Glint comes into play.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And as I mentioned, you all, thank you for being in the private preview for the Copilot and Glint. What drew you to Glint in the first place?
So right off the bat, whenever we were testing out Glint originally, was how intuitive it was. So instead of having to jump in there and really have a big learning curve with our managers of teaching them how to use it and having to repeat that every year when we did our surveys, with Glint, you could just jump in. And so right off the bat, telling you what your engagement score was, highlighting your strengths and opportunities. And for a lot of our managers, we told them, like, you can stop there. Like, if you can go sit down with your team and talk about strengths and opportunities for 30 minutes, that's all you need to do. And a lot of our managers who had been at the companies for years reached out and said, now that we're using Glint, like, I had the best conversation with my team that I've ever had. That it really enabled me to get in there and talk about what we're doing well, where we have our opportunities, and I didn't have to worry about reading all of our questions and trying to really understand everything.
No, that's great. And as I mentioned, we acquired Glint, a couple years back, and just this past year brought Glint onto the Microsoft 365 infrastructure. How was migration for you all? What feedback did you get from your IT side?
So it was actually really simple. When I first called our IT folks to say, hey, we're going to be migrating over to Microsoft, or first I just told them we had a migration, and I could tell they weren't excited. We had just recently transitioned to Glint on the LinkedIn instance, and they're like, wow, we're doing this again? And then when it happened, they actually were like, wow, that was probably the easiest migration we've ever done, because they were able to leverage the connections we already had in place. And even on like the data privacy side, that is one of the most fun parts of my job. And whenever we transitioned over to Microsoft, it became so much easier because of those existing Microsoft agreements.
Standard terms and things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what benefits are you all seeing as Glint being part of Microsoft 365 more broadly than now, beyond just migration and admin at some level?
I think the biggest thing is that we're able to embed it into the ways of working for our employees. So we're not having to say, go use an entirely different product. Like, we can push out notifications through Teams, and people are able to just kind of click on it and jump right in. And then a lot of like the verbiage and how we talk about it, we're able to start tying things together more easily, it's more streamlined, as opposed to, well, we use Microsoft over here and then we use this other product. So it's just made, I think, everyone's lives a little bit easier.
Well, that's good. Switching gears a little bit to Copilot. So you got into the private preview a couple of months ago. I know you've been using it on real data now. Tell us a little bit about your experience so far with Copilot.
So I'm sure everyone's heard a lot about Copilot so far today. But using it within Glint, after just about 2 minutes of it, even less, it was fantastic. I just immediately saw how much it was going to create capacity for me to do other things in my role. So like I shared, in my role, I'm doing everything from designing the survey all the way through the analysis, the report out, recommendations. And there's a heavy kind of responsibility, especially we had 14,000 comments this time. So how do we read through all those comments? How do we do them honor and making sure we're really pulling up that employee voice? So when I jumped in to test Copilot for the first time, and it took 10 seconds to summarize all 14,000 comments, and it matched the analysis that we had done over about a 2-month period. Well, I guess it matched it, and then it actually brought up an additional item that we'd missed. And so I jumped back in. And so I just right off the bat, I was blown away. So then I, of course, had to ask it a million other questions. And so I've loved it.
And so it sounds like it's helping you scale at some level too? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is typically 3 or 4 months after the survey, we start getting requests that say, hey, what did the comments say about communications? What did it say about business transformation? And usually when those come in later, we've moved on to other projects, and it's kind of like, hey, if we have capacity, we'll do this analysis for you, but give us a month. And we recently had an example where someone was able to reach out and said, hey, what did people ask about this topic? And it wasn't something that we specifically had asked about, so they were like, well, did it come through? And I started to tell them, we don't have time to figure this out right now, I'll get back to you later. And I was like, oh, let me try Copilot. And it was actually, the person had shot me an email at the beginning of a meeting they were in. It was about an hour long. I saw it, immediately jumped into Copilot, asked it 6 or 7 questions, copy and pasted the output and emailed it to her while she was still in the meeting. So it was that quick. Like within that hour, I was able to analyze, and I think it ended up analyzing like 6,000 of the comments on that topic in that area, and get them summaries and specific actions that employees were looking for. And I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine the pressure on you all as sort of a combination of HRBI plus employee experience
Right.
plus Glint admin. So no, that's great. And on Copilot specifically, aside from just the privacy terms being similar, in setup, lift for you all, anything else that you would note for this group here?
And so Copilot within Glint specifically, I was on a maybe 5-minute call with my customer experience manager, and he walked me through a handful of steps. When I say a handful, I think it was all of 3 things. Like it was like click here, click there, activate that, like toggle it on, and that was it. It was kind of almost too good to be true, and I was like, no, there's got to be more to it. And so 5 minutes maybe.
So good so far. What's next for you all then?
So kind of like current state, we're actually jumping back in kind of through the comments to say, well, what can we look at now? What did we miss before, or what did we not just have the time to analyze? So that's kind of right in the moment. But what we're looking forward to is September is when our next annual engagement survey will hit. So being able to use Copilot real time in that initial analysis, being able to get our recommendations out and our insights out much more quickly. And then our hope is also to be able to activate it for leaders. So our leaders who end up with 4,000 comments on their own, and our leaders typically read all of them. They want to make sure every single comment has time and attention. So being able to bring in Copilot to also help them with that, like that's going to be a game changer. Like just even for them, the amount of capacity it's going to open up in their day to day.
Yeah, we're in the middle of our semi-annual survey cycle right now, and in about 2 weeks, we're going to have, I think, roughly 20,000 Microsoft managers banging on Copilot and Glint at the same time. So I'm getting ready, bracing for that. Let's see, last question, and then we'll let you go because you've been very generous with your time. Any advice for folks out here or on the stream later?
Definitely. So if you're thinking about Copilot, I would recommend to figure out whether or not it's right for you, to do what I did, which was to use a survey that you'd already analyzed. So one that you're pretty confident in, you know the answers, because whenever I jumped in and was able to test it that quickly, it was kind of a quick validation of how much this tool could do and how much time it could save. So I think if we had a more recent survey open, but we hadn't really analyzed it yet, so it was like, maybe it's right, maybe it's not. But doing it on one that we'd already seen, that we knew backwards and forwards, like it was a very quick validation for what we were looking to do and where we want to move forward to. So that's my best tip, is just test it out and see it for yourself.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks again for being in the preview and for being a Glint and Viva customer. And thank you for coming to
Thanks
Orlando.
for having me.
Yeah. Great. Now we'll jump into communications and show you a little bit of what's going on in Viva in that center of gravity for the suite. For a lot of employees, communications and what they're engaging with us in terms of employee experience will start in an employee hub. In the case of Viva, this is the Viva Connections portal, which you can think of as an out-of-the-box intranet portal for those of you who either want some help bootstrapping your own portal or who want to leverage potentially the more than 1,500 third-party cards that we have out of the box, to connect your portal to other systems of record in your environment. Connections has quickly become a top 10 Teams app, in part because of the mobile experience in particular. A lot of our own employees internally even, and myself, check in on the hub in the morning on Teams, even if we just want to know what the lunch menu is at work. So Viva Connections has been not only an important way for me to just get things done as an employee and others, but it's also a great place to then access some of those bigger corporate communications campaigns in the flow of work that we were talking about earlier. So, here you see there's a AI skilling marquee campaign up on the top. And so this is one of the things that we're most excited about as we roll out Viva Amplify. Connections becomes an endpoint. Connections cards become an endpoint for those corporate comms, more formal comms, as does Outlook and Teams and Engage. in addition to what you can do to connect people in the communities themselves and via the Engage feed. So with that, I will invite Christy Kelly out on stage to show you a little bit about what's happening in Amplify and in Viva Engage.
Thanks, Kirk. Hey, everyone. I made it to the stage without tripping, so that is a win. Thank you all very much for being here today. As Kirk said earlier in the presentation, it can sometimes feel like there's constantly a new opportunity or challenge for us to face. It's kind of like being Harry Potter at Hogwarts. He really doesn't get one uneventful year. And the fact of the matter is, with time, goals do change. But the need to communicate and engage people towards those goals remains. And with that, Viva can help. Let's say I'm a communications director. My IT partner has set me up with Viva Amplify because one of our company's big goals is upskilling our workforce for the age of AI. Viva Amplify makes it easy for me and my team to create, edit, and coordinate communications so we can share skilling resources across our organization. All from one place, we can reach employees through channels like Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, and Viva, including Viva Connections, the front page through which employees get an overview of their work priorities, leader updates, resources like learning and skilling resources, and relationships with their coworkers. On the Reporting tab in Amplify, I can see views of my team's communications, which is great because that tells me that we are successfully reaching our target audiences. Metrics show me through which channels we're reaching employees, and I can also see counts of employees who are actively engaging with our communications through reactions, comments, and shares. My team and I know that if reach is high, those view counts are high, but engagement is low, that might be a signal to us to update our messaging so that it better resonates with employees. But mind reading is hard. How are we supposed to know how people feel about AI skills? Well, you don't need hours and hours of research or Jedi mind tricks when you've got network analytics in Viva Engage. On this dashboard, I can see how people are using Viva Engage to share information and connect with one another. I can also see how the way that we're using Viva Engage is improving employee retention with our company. Viva Engage is where we bring people together across working groups and silos to build knowledge and connections that help us achieve our goals. Goals like upskilling, adoption of new technologies, hint, hint, or better embodying our cultural values. So a lot happens here. Scrolling down the analytics page, I get AI-powered analytics, which make it easier for me to keep up with what's top of mind for employees, because this feature provides a real-time overview of trends in conversation and sentiment. To surface these trending themes, the AI reads through the public posts and the private posts to which I have access. This helps me know where to focus our team's attention and how to tune our strategies to better meet our employees' needs. In exploring the AI skills trending theme, I learn people are expressing excitement about gaining access to Copilot for Microsoft 365. They're also expressing interest in learning AI skills related to prompting Copilot. This is super helpful for me to know. I can make sure we share resources on this topic in our AI skilling campaign in Viva Amplify. And in looking at these trends, I'm picking up a sense that getting access to Microsoft Copilot has inspired an interest amongst our employees to learn AI skills. Many of the conversations about AI skills are happening in our Microsoft Copilot adoption community. So I'll jump over there to see what else I can learn. As you might imagine, our company is pretty excited about integrating Microsoft Copilot to our work. We're curious about the productivity benefits. And this purpose-built community template in Viva Engage makes it easy for us to bring licensed Copilot users together so we can tap into the power of social learning to accelerate adoption and usage. And with the new multi-tenant capabilities in Viva Engage, we can even bring together Copilot users from across different tenants in our network. This adoption community is an example of an out-of-the-box community provided by Viva Engage. But we've also set up our own communities for goals like sharing best practices across sales teams and making tech support easier for everyone, including our IT admins. Let's see the force of community in action. On the right side of the page here, we can see a section titled Top Questions, which automatically surfaces the community's most helpful question and answer posts. This makes it easy for anyone who's visiting the page to tap into the knowledge that's being accumulated in this community, to get the info they need, and also avoid asking duplicate questions, which can be a bit of a burden on community admins. If I don't see the info that I need there, I can write a question post. While writing this post, I get AI-powered suggestions of related questions that have already been asked and maybe already answered. Again, to avoid duplicate questions being asked and to get me to the info that I need faster. In fact, we see almost 50% of answers get caught at this stage, reducing the burden on admins. Future capabilities will enable admins to signal which questions and their answers have been verified. These engaged posts will then show up in Microsoft Copilot results, so people across our organization have access to the latest knowledge as it gets surfaced through our communities. And while I'm here visiting the community, I am inspired by a conversation starter from Copilot in Viva Engage. These are the 3 cards that you see here in the center of the community page. Conversation starters from Copilot are post suggestions that help people understand what type of content will be most valuable on Viva Engage. For example, they encourage sharing the type of knowledge that is most needed in a community, or the stories that can power a culture campaign. For this out-of-the-box community, the conversation starters are written by experts at Microsoft to unlock the kind of social learning that can accelerate the productivity benefits of Copilot. Once I select a starter, Copilot will use it to help me write a great post. And maybe I'd like a little bit more information to help me brainstorm what I'd like to say before I start writing, so I'll ask Copilot to summarize recent conversations in the community. Copilot lets me know that people in this community are sharing learnings, questions, and stories of how they're using Copilot in their role. That makes me think. It makes me think about how enterprise transformations are 5 times more likely to be successful when leaders model behavior change. This community is a great place for me to do that, so I'll create a post sharing how I'm using Copilot in my role. But fear suddenly strikes, the dreaded blank page, easily avoided by asking Copilot for a post template. Copilot will get me started with an outline based on the type of post that I'm trying to write, complete with guidance on how to personalize my posts. Then, Copilot reminds me to keep my Copiloted content authentic by adding my own experiences, knowledge, and style. I'll do that now. Once I have a draft, I can ask Copilot for feedback. For example, ways to make my post more engaging. And I can also collaborate with Copilot to edit my writing. For example, asking it to rewrite a section to include a call to action, so I get the kind of engagement that I'm looking for on my post. By posting on Viva Engage, readers from across our organization can learn from and celebrate my contribution. This reinforces a virtuous cycle of sharing knowledge, questions, and experiences openly in ways that can benefit everyone, accelerating our progress towards our goal, in this case, adoption and usage of Microsoft Copilot. We see the same thing in our communities for upskilling, employee resource groups, tech support, whatever the goal may be. Our communities become a living resource for members and our broader organization. That's the magic of communication and connection, made possible by Viva, that helps us achieve more. Oh, and I'm very excited to say that as of yesterday, Copilot in Viva Engage, which you saw just a moment ago, is rolling out to general availability. So expect Copilot to start showing up wherever you create posts on Viva Engage. And for any IT admins out there in the audience, you can now control Copilot access using Viva Feature Access Management, which enables you to set policies not only at the tenant level, but also at the group and user level. I'll leave you with a customer story of how Viva is bringing people together around shared goals. Thank you so much for your time. Roll the video.
Our mission is to deliver pizza and be the biggest sustainable delivery business in the world. Domino's Pizza Enterprise is the largest master franchisee of the Domino's brand worldwide. We are in 12 markets.
Before we had Viva, the communication was separate. What we were really missing was a communication platform which connected everything in one place.
We like to have a product which is engaging, which has no barriers at all, and is very intuitive to use. And that's what we see with Viva.
The beauty of Microsoft Viva was this idea that it's all-encompassing. So instead of being a selection of individual tools that we were trying to fit into a tool belt, this was the tool belt. We could look at Viva Goals for its ability to help align our team around goal setting. We could look at Viva Engage in terms of how do we have that instant communication and open up the communication channels through to things like Viva Pulse, and also that it integrated so seamlessly into things like Microsoft Teams, which were already staples of the company. Having a solution that's out of the box has enabled us to move very quickly and to implement at speed. We heard that businesses were using OKR and seeing this huge lift in performance, but unless we could engage all of our employees in the OKR program, it was never really going to take flight. And that's where Microsoft Viva Goals came in.
The way I use Viva Goals is that we have now one clear objective for all the companies, and it helps you to prioritize your way of working.
Viva Goals helps us to respond quickly on business change because we track live.
We've got Viva Glint, which is all about the listening and taking that sentiment on board. In our Glint surveys every year, one of the questions that we ask is, how aware are you of the company strategy? And we learned for a number of years we would score quite lowly in that area. What Viva Goals has helped with is providing us with a really clear picture of what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to get there. And since we've rolled the program out, we've seen those Glint scores improving quarter on quarter, which has been really great.
It will help us to really strengthen and increase that engagement with our employees, no matter if you're a delivery expert in the store or a pizza maker or a store manager or a franchise consultant. All the innovative things that we see in our stores are coming from the stores bottom up, and we need to get that feedback from our employees because that makes us every day a little bit better than the day before.
The most exciting thing about the future in Viva is the fact that we bring all of our teams just to one place. As we come together and we have that connection is what's going to help us drive the growth of the business and move us forward.
For the end users, the people that love our customers, it will mean that we will get to their doors faster with a piping hot pizza that's even better for you and more sustainable.
Awesome. We will now go into our third chapter so we can get you to dinner in time also to have a little pizza maybe tonight. Talking about skilling, if there's one topic that's as hot with customers these days when I'm talking to them as AI is, it's all about upskilling, reskilling, and both because of what we need to do around AI transformation, both as implementers and as end users, but also in general because of where we can potentially go with the technology as many organizations move from being role-based organizations to skill-based organizations. Again, I think there was a session a little bit earlier today that you could check out, or in Expo Hall. We have a bunch of experts there as well, if you're interested in going deeper. This goes to both how we think about skilling at the end user level, but then also how do you think about getting to a skills landscape or an inventory for your organization or your team or your company. Something that prior to what we're doing now in partnership with LinkedIn has been largely impossible to do in most companies. So one of the, I think, things that you're going to see in a minute that's most interesting is this skills inferencing service that we're now in private preview with in Viva. And so rather than talking more about it, I'll show you a quick video, and Michael Holster will come out on stage and can show you some of the demos both in Insights and in Viva Learning. So with that, roll the video.
Tap into talent with skills in Microsoft Viva. A talent gap can affect your ability to execute on your company's strategic priorities. Time to recruit. Or is it? It's likely you have employees with the abilities and expertise you need, but you just don't know it. And there are others interested in upskilling and reskilling. All you need is a way to find them. Uncover the hidden expertise in your enterprise with Skills in Viva. Skills combines two powerful data layers from Microsoft. Microsoft Graph provides access to data stored across Microsoft 365 services, including signals about employee activity. LinkedIn Skills Graph leverages aggregated real-time signals to map how 39,000 unique skills relate to each other, to jobs, and to learning content. Using these signals and tags, Skills in Viva applies AI reasoning to infer employee expertise and send information to Viva and Microsoft 365 experiences. Envision surfacing insights into top and missing skills in your organization to identify opportunities for agile talent and hiring. Now picture your line of business managers using the same data to build learning paths targeted at employees who are fulfilling roles that need the skills. And your employees? They can confirm inferred skills on profile cards and search for others who have the right expertise to help accelerate a project. Bridge the talent gap with skills in Microsoft Viva.
Great, thank you. So developing your organization's skills is vital for companies looking to plan their AI transformation so they can understand their current talent abilities and get a view into their performance, their employee development, retention, and their hiring needs for today and what they'll need in the future. Now, as a leader in this scenario, I've been tasked with helping my organization understand our entire skilling landscape. So let's take a look at how Skills in Viva and this Viva Insights Analyst Workbench can help. I'll click into the skills landscape template that Nick showed us earlier. And this opens an out-of-the-box report and shows me an all-up view of our entire skills. So I can see the distribution of our skills in the hierarchy and taxonomy of how these skills relate to each other and the layering of these skills. Now, if you're wondering where these skills are coming from, they're automatically being inferenced from AI, from the Microsoft Graph based on your job title and the activities that you're participating in M365 every day. And of course, they can also leverage your existing skills taxonomy. Now, in the distribution tab, I can set filters and I can deep dive into groups, functions, and different job families to understand where these skills actually live within my organization. So with a new product line under development, I want to make sure that our team has the requisite skills to actually accelerate our time to market. But as we can see from this chart, we're a little bit weak in R&D and in product development, so we might need to pay some extra attention there. So let's go deeper into the breakdown tab. The breakdown report shows the deepest level of detail that you can view for a specific skill. So I can see how many people across my company have this specific skill, how many have confirmed this skill, or if these skills are just inferred, and the related skills that are both confirmed and inferred. Now, from here you can see we have a foundational skill for machine learning, and since this is essential to AI, we do want to make sure that we can upskill in this area so that we can effectively allocate our talent for what we'll need in the future. So let's switch into Viva Learning. And of course, Viva Learning pulls in content from across your entire company resources, from areas like SharePoint, from LinkedIn, from Microsoft Learn, and from your own learning management systems, or LMSs. Here I can also see my current skills inventory up in the top left, and I can see tailored course suggestions based on those skills. And right from Viva Learning, I can go deeper into my skills. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to click See More. And now I'm on my profile, and I can see the inferred skills which are relevant to me in my job title. I can accept some, I can confirm some, I can dismiss some that aren't relevant, but I'm going to go ahead and select a few of these and confirm them. Now note that these skills are directly related to the skills hierarchy we saw back in the report. And please note as well that the only skills that my organization will publicly see are skills that I have already confirmed as well. So now I can manage my skills at any time. I can see a list of all of the skills that are available to me. I can delete and approve as needed, or I can add skills. So here I'm going to add communication, and I'm going to confirm this skill as well. Now to keep my skills up to date, the Viva Skills Inferencing Engine will continue to learn and recommend skills based on the Microsoft Graph and based on what I'm doing and the people I work with every day. I can also add custom skills, and I can add the skills that I'm interested in learning. And these will be pulled right up into Viva Learning so that I can keep my skill repertoire up to date at any time. And as I jump back into Viva Learning now, we can see that this has been updated with the skills that I just confirmed. So there's new course recommendations here. I can go even deeper now by going up into our Viva Learning Academies. And learning academies go beyond just specific technical skills to actually connect and attach to what our company goals are. I can create multiple learning academies, and as an admin here, I can assign and require required training so that I can track the progress to it and send these to my coworkers. So I'll bookmark a course here on natural language processing so I can access it anytime. So we just saw how Viva Learning can help guide learning, but let's see how Copilot can take this even further. By clicking on Copilot in the top right, I, who am driving our AI transformation, am interested in learning a little bit more about the AI fundamentals myself. So I can type this into Copilot, and voila. Copilot will recommend courses, themes, and takeaways as it relates to AI fundamentals. But I want to double click now into the risks and ethics associated with AI so I can have a better understanding. I'm going to wait on Copilot here, and just like that, it will provide a number of different courses, which I can easily in one click add to a learning collection so that I can get back to this content whenever it works for me. As I flip over, I now see this AI risks and ethics learning collection. Again, I can assign this to folks, I can track their progress, and I can get deep analytics about completion rates and edit and manage this as needed over time to add additional courseware. And of course, since Viva Learning is designed and built directly for Microsoft Teams, it's next to the chat and projects and people that I work with every single day, so it's shareable and top of mind for me. And to help employees find the right experts, we're also bringing this into easily discoverable and searchable common places like the people card, both in Microsoft Teams and ultimately in Outlook. So that's how Viva Learning and Skills in Viva can help you plan your skilling landscape and talent needs for both today and tomorrow. Thank you. Back to you, Kirk.
Thanks, Michael. Great. So, obviously Viva's a big suite of services. There's a lot on the roadmap, a lot available today. I'd encourage you to check out the Microsoft 365 roadmap site, the Viva section of it, including a bunch of capabilities we didn't cover today on the admin side. We've just released a whole bunch of new functionality for more granular feature access control and compliance controls. We now have a unified data ingress service for profile data with Microsoft 365 generally that gives a great level of, again, privacy and compliance control that you wouldn't have had previously or you would have had to manage separately. Bringing everything we can into the Mac as quickly as we can. And so a bunch of things. Encourage you to check out the roadmap. Copilot dashboard. Again, we shared a little bit of that early on. If you are adopting Copilot, trying it out or rolling it out, I would say check out aka.ms/Copilot dashboard, and you can go deeper again, as Nick showed, in Analyst Workbench and Insights. If you want to connect Microsoft 365 telemetry with your own data sources or KPIs. You can learn more about Viva adoption, including all of the work we're doing on Copilot adoption at the adoption.com site for Microsoft. And then finally, if any of the Copilots that you saw today seemed interesting and you want to go do a private preview or preview for the ones that aren't in GA, please go to the Copilot site, or you can contact me directly, kirkgr@microsoft.com, and we'll get you set up for private previews. So with that, thank you. Have a great rest of the conference, and look forward to seeing some of you after in one-on-ones and meetings.